Hello and welcome to yet another live show. This is Marlon here from Sydney on the Ask Marlon show. So thank you very much for joining us again. And this is our second show. Me and my team have been looking forward to sharing our experience, our thoughts, and anything that you want to know from technology, business, and innovation, and anything in those areas. And also, if you have any insights that you want to share with us, and we can talk about it. So, welcome back. Please, if you join us on the feed, can you introduce yourself and say where you're calling from or where you logged on from? If you have any questions, please put them on there. Who is online on standby, we'll put them on the screen and we can then see them. So I just want to say welcome back. Thank you very much. So yeah, so what I would say is first, I wanted to share why we created this Ask Marlon program. So I guess one of the reasons is that we wanted to, tackle real questions and real problems. So if you have like a problem that is definitely a current one, or even that you have experienced in the past or thinking about, that is what we want to actually help you resolve and answer. So the one of the other ones is to activate the gift of giving. So basically love to share our knowledge and in technology and business, again, as I said, in any other subjects that is valid. So and also I would say the team and everyone, a couple of my colleagues and friends, I want to share their experience and knowledge too. So those are the areas. So the topics that we cover here are sort of, do you want to bring that up, slide up on there? Basically, in strategic stuff in business and in technology itself. Let me just bring up that banner. Here you go. Yeah, and leadership in culture, and yeah, anything in those areas. And if we're not covering any other areas, I'm happy to dial someone and bring them online in regards to people and culture and human stuff. So today we got a bit of action-packed session booked in. What I wanted to say was that we have a guest speaker who's going to join us a bit later on. Now she's like in helping people in putting like career strategies, her role is, and she actually helps people place people into Fortune 500 companies. So yeah, line up your questions and we'll ask her some stuff when she joins in, hopefully. And yeah, so we got a couple of people joining. So yeah, I guess Johan. Hey, Johan. Johan's in Sri Lanka, so it's a bit early morning at the moment. Welcome, and wait for a couple others to join in the meantime, and then I have some questions that came from last time, so happy to answer them, and then go through any new ones. So yeah, so let's go through the first maybe number of questions we have. So first one is from Madhuka, Ratnange. Now he, I think he's from Sri Lanka anyway. So this is a question. I am into IT sales industry, system integration. So he's working for a system integrator. What's the best recommended sales strategy we can apply to the market on a pandemic situation like this? Most of the companies are not investing for infrastructure upgrades. So definitely, I would say in this particular question, a lot of companies are, cautious to spend money during this time, and that is because of the uncertainty of revenue and sales. And if depending on what industry you are, like, so if you're in a we're attached to a what do you call travel industry or hospitality or any of those areas, your business is basically almost like next to nothing at the moment. So um, there's, even with pivoting very hard, even with pivoting very hard to make sure that the yeah, I'm just getting some feedback that the quality on the video stream is not very good. So um, if I stop the stream, it'll actually fail. So I'll keep going. Uh, um, yeah, so what we'll do is uh, hopefully it'll improve. Otherwise, I'll do another show. Anyway, technology always, can have issues. So as I said, we tested everything and everything was working fine. And sometimes, um, yeah. So cool. In this that particular question, so what you can do is, in a COVID pandemic situation like this, you can help some of those companies to look at their technologies and maybe be a partner to help ease the pain. So for example, if they need an infrastructure upgrade or something that's expiring, we have to help them do it at minimum cost and reduce the footprint. So for example, if they have servers and they need to go to the we need to send the technology to the cloud, then work out what best cost effective way we can do that, or a temporary solution that they can actually deal with. One of the biggest issues that if you do not if you defer everything to um, you know um, if you defer everything from getting changed over, due to the issues with I guess funding and stuff. What can happen is in 2 years time you may end up with a lot of problems with the solution that you have currently, and you may have to spend double the amount of money. So it's a bit of catch-22. Madhuka, hopefully I answered that question adequately for you. Yeah. So um, so the next one I have is yep. So I think our guest speaker has arrived. What we'll do is we'll leave some of the questions to later on. This is Melissa. What I'll do is we'll introduce I think there was a slide D, if you can bring that up. Yeah, so Melissa is a career strategist. She's based currently in Sydney, but most of her work is in the US, in New York. So yeah, I'll bring Melissa online.
Hear me? Can you see me?
Hi, Melissa.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So you're having a bit of technology speed issues on this side, but all good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, perfectly. Perfectly.
Very good, very good. Yeah. So I was just giving a quick introduction about you, and very exciting to have you. So the other day, a couple of my other colleagues who were gonna join in had a couple of things happen, and you just put a comment in there. So it was fantastic to have you join in so dynamically. So I've been reading some of your articles and things like that. So amazing to have you here. And what we can do is get you to maybe tell us a little bit about what you do, and so that then we can go through some questions and hopefully share some knowledge with everyone over here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is amazing, Marlon. Thank you so much for having me live with your community. This is so impeccable. So I am in Sydney, Australia. But if I may just ask, in terms of the people that are on, I'm just curious, Marlon, do you have a sense? Because I'm not able to see like participants, but do you have a sense of kind of like their backgrounds? Are they all kind of like CEOs, business owners, P&L leaders? What's a bit of the audience right now?
Okay, so right now in the live stream we don't have heaps of people, but typically when they all start join or when they watch it after on would be mainly business owners who are a fair bit of in them in Sydney and around, I guess, in this area. There are a couple of I guess people who will be in the they're like solopreneurs, one who's we're doing, battling with what we need to do. I guess, and then a couple of them would be in the, in the level that you are normally working with to bring them into the Fortune 500 companies, etc. So it'll be a mixed bag of people with, so whatever they can take as nuggets from you would be really good.
Yeah, so amazing. So it's always interesting because what I predominantly do is really support professionals that are in the marketing space, right? And so as marketers, what's really important is to understand your target audience. That's why I was like, Marlon, well, who's here? So this way I could speak to you very specifically. And so I appreciate that context, because that's going to help me better express the sort of nuggets that would be most helpful to everyone right now. And so to give you a little bit about myself, right? So I'm here in Sydney, Australia. I've been here for about 2 years with my family, originally from the United States, from New York. And very specifically, I've always worked in terms of supporting people that work in multinational organizations, right? And people that want to work for multinational organizations. But I will say this, in terms of some of the changes that have been, coming because of COVID, because of the pandemic, a lot of people have shifted their thinking. So they are even more excited about organizations that are smaller, faster, basically the ones that sound like startups, the ones that are more entrepreneurial, the ones that are more, flexible. So the ones that offer the freelancing opportunities. So my perspective is going to be such that I know what these job candidates are really looking for in terms of employment, in terms of onboarding, which Marlon expressed was an interesting topic that I could certainly discuss. And in terms of the way that they deem an organization exciting enough to apply to, right? So looking at it from those different sort of lens is where I would bring my insights. My own experiences are global. So I have worked in New York, I've worked in London, I've worked obviously here in Sydney, and I've also worked in Paris as well. And so I've also covered various sectors, so information technology being one of them. So for example, I worked for Thomson Reuters, and this was a long time ago. It was when it was Reuters. And then I also worked for, or actually clients of mine were IBM, SAP. So I have a good sense of like the tech speak as well. And really looking at all these different sectors in which I've worked, there are so many similarities that, to be really, really honest, chances are if you've been successful in technology, you could be really successful in healthcare. If you've been successful in healthcare, you could be really successful working in a consumer product goods organization. So there's a lot of transferable skills. But when it comes to people that would want to work for you or would want to work with you, being in the position of having to fulfill promises of like rapid growth or coming up with an MVP, right, to test out in a new market, when it comes to that concept, people that are job candidates around the world are excited. Like they want to work for folks like you guys. The only sacrifice to them is stability, right? That's the big, that's the holy grail. If there were a way for people to de-risk working for an organization that was smaller in terms of number of employees, that maybe didn't offer certain benefits, my perspective is going to come from a US because healthcare is a huge benefit. I know in other places it's, nationalized healthcare system. But at the end of the day, that's the one hurdle that as business or owners, right, in organizations that are not necessarily multinational, like IBMs or whatever, that's the one hurdle you have to kind of address head on, right? So how is it that the growth opportunity and the excitement is going to get them over that concern, frankly?
Absolutely. I think, yeah, that's, I mean, a great point, and thank you for sharing that, because I think if a smaller businesses are looking for attracting, I would say, you know, good talent and experienced talent, obviously they're looking for, you know, continuity and sustainability of their, you know, role and some kind of, you know, so how about if a small business is like, you know, I would say not a bootstrap, maybe like a startup that's, you know, got some investment and they, you know, going through, I guess, you know, a recruitment process that they cannot exactly, you know, maybe, I would say show them the, you know, the future, right? So it's one of the tough ones that most, you know, I guess that sort of companies have. Do you, you know, look at like, you know, people, you know, sharing equity and, you know, um, creating value for themselves as they work in an organization as a profit share, or can you share a little bit of perspective on that?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I have a podcast. It's called An Interview with Melissa Lorena. And
Yep.
I asked that question to Gary Vaynerchuk. So
Yeah.
he was a guest. He was episode number 10.
Okay.
And Gary Vaynerchuk essentially would recommend any job candidate to ask the
Mhm.
question, can I get equity? Can I get whatever, right? In
Yeah.
terms of tying your interests with the interests of the company founder, right? And then of course, figuring out a way so that it behooves everyone involved for you to work really hard, but to really, you know, stand a chance at getting that reward at some point. So Gary Vee says, ask no matter what, right? Now, from the perspective of a business owner, let's imagine, I'm not imagining like a mid-sized company, maybe smaller than that, but ultimately, you feel like there's going to be some success, right? There's going to be some sort of, you know, acquisition 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, I don't know, whatever time frame you might have. What's important, I would say, is, and this is so nuanced because Marlon, if you are trying to bring someone who has never worked in a startup, like, you know, very, what can I say, a bootstrap environment, you have to educate them too. Like if they're used to, like, you know, IBM saying like, your bonus is going to be 20% if you meet this KPI, you know, someone that's coming to you, the onus is really on them, but I'm just kind of giving you guys the benefit of the doubt in case you want to do some education in terms of these candidates that are top talent. But the onus is on that job candidate to understand that you have a lot of risk on you, like a lot of risk. Like they need to understand that you're taking a chance on yourself. You're taking a chance on hiring them. You're also, you know, there's just a lot kind of coming at you. So they have to understand, okay, what's going to be, what can I share by way of the talents that I bring, the relationships that I bring also, because that's another piece of the puzzle a lot of my clients originally don't think about. What can I bring to the table that's going to help someone like yourself, Marlon, or someone that's like, you know, watching us feel okay with sharing a piece of that success or that win? Like there's gotta be something. You have to have like an it factor in terms of you being an actual business owner, right? And wanting to really retain 100% ownership. Like that's something that you as a business owner, you have to ask yourself that question. Like, okay, like, and I've heard this in other places, like, you know, are you okay with having 100% of, I'm making this up, 0 or 50% of like 500 million, right? I've heard that before. And sometimes it takes a team. Hi, Janali. Sometimes it takes a team to actually, you know, exceed expectations, grab that market share. And sometimes that's a sacrifice that as a business owner, someone who has all that risk on them has to feel comfortable enough, you know, kind of opening up to new talent. But it's all about, like, do you need that talent? Might they open a door that is going to help you flourish? And so that's an honest conversation that has to be had. And then, of course, you know, the breakdown and like what sort of package do you offer, like that is a case by case situation. There is not a one size fits all. And there's also a lot that can happen, not just now when you hire them, but conversations that can be scheduled and said to be done 6 months later. Well, let's see how it goes in 6 months. And then we have that equity conversation, or in another, you know, whatever time frame. That's fair for everyone involved. So it's case by case. I don't have one answer, one framework. Gary Vee on the podcast said, ask, right? And you as a business owner have to be comfortable.
Absolutely. I think that's a fantastic, I think explanation. And I think I've been listening to a couple of your podcasts. I didn't find the Gary Vee one, so that's number 10.
Number 10.
Yeah, because I saw the pictures and stuff. So that's pretty cool. You also, write for, the Forbes and stuff like that, right? So we're talking about that. I think a pretty important article you wrote about retaining your staff, after the 45 days. So it's pretty relevant in the current time. Do you want to just give us a bit of a snippet of that? And what we'll do is on the comments, I'll actually put those posts and your podcast links and stuff like that. So anyone who's interested to, not interested, everyone should be listening to it. My listeners, I guess questions and, the real greatness of that is the real power in, getting feedback from these businessmen who have, achieved like a significant amount of value by creating whatever business, opportunities, ventures, you name it. So you got a great lineup there. So I just want to share, if you want to share that article and what we talked about there. I'm just going to, while you're doing that, I'm just going to plug my computer. I think it's just unplugged and the power went off on one of the units. So if you want to do that, it'd be good.
Okay, so I mean, in terms of the article, the interesting part of it is that the inspiration for the Forbes article, which is how not to lose your new employees in their first 45 days, it came from my own personal experience, having worked in an agency in New York City. And I would say that the most interesting piece, or the most relevant, because I wrote that several years ago, but the most relevant part of that is essentially, if you are going to hire someone, it's really important that they feel important, and whether that's day 1 or day 45, it's something that you're setting the tone up front. Now, as someone that might be a solopreneur, as someone that might be, a small business owner with few employees, and you wear a lot of hats, it's really important to be mindful of the fact that, all that intellectual capital that's in your mind as far as how things are done and the way that and the values too, all of that has to be shared with people coming on board, right? And so that's really an important piece of the puzzle. And again, and I think this is such a nuanced but important, Marlon, because if you are trying to hire people who have been in these large corporate institutions because you think that they have the relationships and talent, they are used to a certain process behind being onboarded. So for me, as an example, when I worked for 𝐒𝐚𝐭𝐞 part of the process was understanding very, very intimately, actually 𝗪𝗲𝗓 himself, right? Like understanding, 𝐒𝐴𝐴𝐽, like, okay, so 𝐒𝐴𝐴𝐽, like what was his, fingerprint, right? Like what was the way that he actually would think about advertising? Why was sales so important to him? Being a communications like wordsmith and watching the videos and having a good appreciation for what it would have been like to work with someone that was such a genius, right? And so that is a big organization, multinational, 𝐒𝐴𝐴𝐽, right? Now if you're a solopreneur and you have to take time out of your own day to onboard people, I would recommend for sure making sure that you have some sort of process that is really set up so that it can be like automated eventually, right? So if you
Yeah.
have like that, PowerPoint presentation that expresses like how you do business differently than other people in your space, that has to be automated for you because time is scarce. And I would also say that, in terms of helping people feel important, part of it is very simple, and that is and does require a little bit of your time up front. So if someone is just, wandering around, not that you would do that if you have a small business, because again, you're paying for them. But if someone is wandering around, making sure that the group itself, the people who are already working with you, making sure that they know that there's someone new in their space. Like, it's a tiny little thing, but I remember working for the best organizations in the world that these were the little differences that I still remember decades later. I remember having a little name placard, they call it from a US perspective, on my cubicle years ago that was green. And that meant that because it was green, that I was brand new. So everyone that would pass by me was able to say, "Hi, Melissa." And I met a lot of people from that perspective. So that was amazing. That was absolutely amazing. And yeah, this is my Instagram.
Yes, I think that's your Instagram and your podcast banner, right? So just put it up there. I brought my other computer up. So thank you so much. I think, I think, Melissa, there's so much of like, I would say when you dig deep into these areas that we can get lost in. So I think what people need to really spend the time is to really either, so for example, if I'm listening to a podcast, I'll take my big like notepad like this here, I've got like a big, so that's like, I'll take notes like, with drawings and things like that. So capture whatever you feel like is relevant to you in the way that you eat. That's the most important thing with all these live sessions and podcasts is to, there's so much of information shared that we, can, use, but if we don't intently, seek that and listen to it, we miss it. So that's fantastic. So can I ask you what you, so I know you're based in, Sydney, and explain how that works because most of your work is in, US.
Well, most of my work is actually global. It's online. So if I had to divide the world in any way, right, like offline
Yeah.
or online, it's really always been online, right? So I started my business in 2011, and I was physically based in New York at the time, and I've been in New York for the bulk of my experience, right? And so my husband and I, we decided about 2 years ago to relocate here to Sydney, Australia. And it was not because an IBM relocated me. It was not because a Dropbox relocated us. It was simply a sense of curiosity. For us, we have 3 little children, and we wanted to give them a different life experience. And so because I'm a career coach, I was able to coach my husband on that process of how to get an employer to help him in terms of a visa. And so we're here. But it's been an amazing experience. I can't say anything bad at all about Australia. It's warm, it's beautiful, palm trees. From a US perspective, right now is not the time to go to the United States. So I think we're in an amazing place. So this has been a wonderful journey, and I think that's something that's missing from a lot of individuals who might not work in multinationals. So for example, depending of course on the way your business is set up, if you only do business locally, as an example, if you only do business locally, you're missing out on understanding, how people outside of your borders think about the world, just like their different life experiences, their different expectations too, from like a, consumer perspective. There are so many different ways of delivering value, and value is defined very locally if you really think about it. And so when I've worked in different parts of the world, that's something that I noticed. And I actually did, and this is just my nerdy self, but I did like this whole study on China, and basically, you know, this whole idea that if you sell food, for example, right, in China versus in the Philippines versus in whatever, you know, you have different menu options based on local taste palettes, which is a very personal thing, a very culturally based nuance. And so that was a fun exercise that I did when I pursued my MBA, but it's something that I learned. So that's why I was able to come here in Sydney, and I was able to meet people that work here in Australia and understand and appreciate that they have a different point of view.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. So I think, yeah, I mean, I've been here like 20 odd years, so definitely a place to really be. And, you know, the weather is beautiful. We had a couple of 40-degree days, I guess, in the last couple of days, but couldn't complain. So Melissa, what I'll do is I'll, you know, if anyone's online want to ask a specific question from Melissa in regards to that process, and, you know, I'll also bring up your, I think, this is Melissa's, you know, LinkedIn profile. So if you guys online, definitely connect with her and, you know, have a chat if you have any requirements. And as Melissa said, you know, when you're profiling, you know, a job, I don't know, these days I don't like to use the word job. It's like, you know, if something that you really want to do is a company that you want to actually work with or work at, to, you know, jointly, you know, bring your core purpose, or, you know, your purpose of what you want to achieve with their, align with them. And so someone like Melissa is what you need to, who you need to talk to and work with, because it'll actually definitely make that connection. And when that works, you know, it's like magic. So I just want to reiterate that. So Melissa, one of the questions that I've, you know, always had in this space is currently in, you know, during the I guess pandemic, what people have told me is that, you know, the experience of the candidate has, you know, massively changed, right? So if you're actually, you know, applying for a, you know, particular role or a place, what have you seen companies, you know, who are, you know, in that forefront, you know, done to actually, you know, maybe make that better experience, make it like you know, safer and more welcoming? Because before, you know, you could go and have coffee with the, you know, person and, you know, shake their hands. And I know globally it's changed, but, you know, yeah. So anyway, without going too much, you know, what have you seen that best implemented? So this is just to give some of the businesses and people who are recruiting and seeking good talent to really be aware of, and, you know, maybe think about what they have not thought about.
I would say the interesting bit there, as far as, you know, really enticing people to work for you, and then of course to stay with you, right, is really understanding in the sense that, and I think COVID, the pandemic, has done this with working from home, especially for people that are not here, not in Australia as much, but like from a US perspective, it's very home, you know, work from home, school from home for their kids. It's very intense and busy and nonstop. So I would say the best sort of support that can be provided is to be an empathetic and compassionate leader. And I interviewed 𝗪𝗏 He actually was a 4-time CEO of agencies on my podcast again. So an interview with Melissa Lorena, and Will basically said, you know, once you start to see someone's humanity, right? And sometimes you, right now, from a US perspective, if you Zoom with anybody, like, you will probably hear their kids, you will probably see their pets. So I think now, because of the pandemic, it's given people a better appreciation for the fact that we are multidimensional humans. And 𝗪𝗏, as a people leader, he shared that insight, which was, you have to give people a sense of, you seeing them, you understanding them, you being compassionate, because maybe the KPIs that you had originally set out before the pandemic, maybe you have to edit them and refine them. And I know that doesn't feel good if you have like VCs, or if you have to make promises to certain shareholders, etc. However, it might be important in order to keep that top talent. So that's one thing. One, recognize and realize that people are working, yes. However, they're working plus they're parenting, plus they're doing whatever else they're doing, right? Especially, the countries like in the UK too, where people are more locked down and at home. So recognizing that. The second thing I would say is really, making some time for fun on a virtual environment. I'll give you an example. Really big organizations, I think one of them was Hearst Magazines, and this was in New York City. For their employees, what they did was they hired a virtual cook. And as a team building exercise, they were able to make beautiful dishes, right? Virtually. And so I don't know if anyone here is familiar with, but Airbnb, they have virtual experiences that you can use for team building purposes. So if you are everywhere around the world or at home in isolation, you can still have fun, right? So if you would have had, as an example, a holiday party, that's one example. Now you can still do a virtual holiday party. So go to Airbnb and you can absolutely, sign up for an experience, and they have options for like team building that are more corporate. So you can cook together, so that's the second thing. And I would say the last one is really kind of like crowdsourcing, just like you would crowdsource ideas for a product. Literally ask your employees, what is it that would be helpful to you right now? Definitely find out if they feel extra pressures. Are they sick? I don't know. There's so many people in different parts of the world that are not as blessed as here in Australia. There's so many people that are sick, and I don't even know, because I go outside and I see beauty. I'm not seeing this, I just hear of this. So even opening up the conversation as a people leader and asking during the next team meeting, is everyone okay? I think that's important, right? So of course, start out one-on-one asking that question, because it might be private, right? But then later on, just incorporate to team meetings. Is everyone okay? How can I be of support? How's this moment in time treating you? How can I help? So ask people, crowdsource ideas from your team.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I think there are a couple of good ones that people can adopt. And I think, so there are a couple of things that I've seen is that, having meals together, having a little, wine or drinks in Friday evening together. So we do a few things like that. We done some trivia and some games online on Zoom. So these are things that we can do. So Melissa, I cannot thank you enough to, be here and share your, in-depth experience. I'm sure we'll be chatting again. Anything else that you want to share with the audience that are watching and who'll be watching the recorded show?
Yeah, no, definitely subscribe to my podcast, An Interview with Melissa Lorena, because there are episodes there featuring people that are, people leaders who have been through very tumultuous times before, and they have really a lot of wisdom to share in the different episodes. And also, people like James Altucher, which I'm not sure if you're familiar, but just like Gary Vaynerchuk, he's on the other side, like people that have capital that are investing in companies. So you want to understand how they think about, investments. And so I've interviewed James Altucher on my podcast too. So I invite anyone to subscribe. I'm on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and also reach out to me here on LinkedIn. Absolutely connect with me. I'm open to it.
Thank you so much, Melissa. So I'll catch up again, and I'll put all the links in there, everyone, for you to, especially the podcast and the yeah, just watch especially the ones that the which one is the? Do you remember which one was the last person you were just talking about? Not the Gary Vee.
Altitude, you're saying?
Yeah.
So that I split it into two. So episode 5 and episode 6.
Okay, cool. So episode 5, 6, and 10 are the must-watch ones, or listen ones, and yeah, reach out to her if you have anything. So thank you, Melissa, and for being on the show. And just want to say bye and talk to you soon.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe. Thank you again.
All right, you too.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Hey everyone, thank you very much for. So that was Melissa. Please connect with her, and put all the links on the comments anyway, so you can have a look and connect. So we had a few other questions that I want to quickly go through in the next segment. So this was regarding technology. So first one was technology too complex in a business. How do we work through this problem? So basically, question. Yes, I'll put the screen on there. So so if you're a medium, a small to medium size business, yeah, the technology in the areas of automation and processes and even production or ERP can get pretty complex. So the reason being, each of the businesses, I would say, have multiple areas that they need to work on. Like, for example, I don't know if you have a manufacturing plant, the machines that are operating that and producing things need to also feed information into your production system, and these things will have multiple components. So well, typically what I would say is when you have technology has become a bit complex in a company. It's normally a company has been there for like 10-15 years. So first things first to do is to do a technology review, do audit of the technologies in use, and get a view on what is out there, and the value that you currently have in the technologies that you currently do, and how best they're actually doing what they're supposed to do for your organization. So if you do a review, then basically you can most probably gauge where you are. And if you really medium to large company, you most probably need to do like a platform analysis or a technology like a systems analysis in a way that it basically creates a thing called a platform strategy that then we can formulate what are the ones that are working well, what are the ones we need to change, and what are the ones that most probably need to be removed. So these are the things you can do if you're a small business, and then you need to simplify your technologies to work. So there's one of the other questions there was that so what I'll bring that one here. So one of the major issues when adopting technology is having the attitude that I am not a technology person. So this happens a lot in smaller businesses, small to medium businesses, that they'll say, I'm not a tech person, I don't understand this thing. So fully understand that sometimes technology can be complex and difficult to understand from how they work in the back end or the mechanics of it. So what you need to realize is anything that we do in technology or business or human resources, there's fundamental things that you can understand. So those ones you need to spend a bit of time, try and read up or whatever it is, and absorb the knowledge of the basics. So I would say that in if you can understand the basic components of what you're using. Like, for example, let's say that you're using Microsoft Office 365, for your email. There's like 20 other components or even 30 other components in there that you can use for. Now, you're definitely not going to be able to stay on top of these things all the time, even including ourselves or technology people. We have to spend a lot of time, but you can most probably read the latest, news article or whatever that's actually written by, for example, Microsoft in this example. As a consumer, like not as a technology person, but as a consumer, what with the features and facts. So spending a little bit of time on understanding the tech definitely helps you, really not get lost in it or not having, issues with not knowing what to do, or yeah. So the other option is obviously getting someone to talking to someone like who's a technology expert to get a view on it. So happy to help if you need to, and talk to one of our team members or any of our colleagues. That'll help resolve that. So maybe yeah, let's see if anyone else has any questions online. If they're not, I'll have one more here and then we'll just move on. So the next one I have is, so finding correct software or product for the requirement. So in a situation like this, what we typically do is we gather the requirements really well. So for example, if you have a particular process that you want a piece of software or something to automate it or to run it better, we have to gather all the requirements. So the requirement gathering and spending time asking all the stakeholders, including anyone who's operating that system or anyone who's involved in it in the organization, to tell you what that all the minimum requirements, all the like to haves and all the must haves, so that you can bring the vendors together. So the next step of that is that you go to some of the technology software vendors and you give them that list and tell them to tick the boxes and see which ones that you can comply, and then bring them in for some interviews and some demonstrations, and hopefully then you can pick the software pieces that you are relevant, and then I would say the next step is doing a proof of concept. So yeah. So I think that's all the questions we have. What I'll do is, so thank you very much for everyone's being there. I'm just going to have a quick couple of shout outs. These are people who just want to give gratitude and say thank you for. So let me bring them up. Yeah, so while I'm doing that, so first one is Rukaya. So if you also have questions, that please email me on Ask Marlon. So Ask Marlon at biztechglobal.com. So this is shout out is for Rukaya. So Rukaya lives in in Dubai, and she is basically coach, and she's a smile strategist. So basically what she does is that she's created this I guess concept called smile, and she takes people through being living and working to their best potential, and she creates possibilities for those people. So I'm basically not maybe giving it enough emphasis and credit to what Rukaya does. So one of the things I really admire about her is that she's created videos. I think last time I counted was like 900 and something, but I'm sure she's jumped to 1,000. So she has created daily videos for like, over 1,000 days. So that's a commitment that she has to help people and, give them, a gift of like what her thoughts and her inspirations are. So thank you very much. I'm looking forward to having Ruqayyah one day in our live show. So next one I want to bring up is, so one of the things that I learned from Ruqayyah before I go is that, that consistency and commitment to being a positive light, makes such a big difference in the world. So next one is Mr. Frank. If I can type this correctly. So Frank, let me see if I can bring him up. Oops. Yeah, so Frank is actually a virtual, CFO. So he provides, I'm not having luck here. Let me just bring Frank up. There you go. This is Mr. Handsome Mr. Frank. So yeah, Frank's virtual CFO. He's a business advisor, and definitely helps with company growth. And he lives in Sydney. He's one of my buddies. We hang out and we help people with their company, finances and some of the technology stuff and things like that. So I would say connect with him and say hello. So again, one of another candidates to be on live here. We can share our views and ask questions. So please, ask questions on the email like you did last week. So that was fantastic to get some questions coming through on the email address listed here. So thank you very much, Frank. Let me just bring up my camera back here. Sorry. So yeah, I think we'll wind up our session today. So thank you for everyone who's watching and has participated, and thanks to Melissa for all your insights here. What I want to do is, share a parting quote. So thank you very much, Joe. Anyone who have not seen the comments passing by, appreciate you being here and appreciate for the support. So the whole purpose of here is to share our knowledge and give all the information. So I just want to put a parting quote here for all of you. So this is one of my favorite ones, to say that, to be the change that you want to see in the world, was shared by the great Mahatma Gandhi. So if you, keep working on the change that you want to see, basically, it'll impact everyone around you and the world, and the world will be a better place. So, so anyone else, have any questions, please. Thank you, Sandamini. Thank you, everyone, for Mr. Marvin. Thank you very much, brother. We'll wind up our show now again, and hopefully we'll come back to you sometime next week or the week after. We'll line up and share like your the invite for the live show. So if that's all, if you don't have any questions, please, take this as have a fantastic Wednesday, and looking forward to having you back again.